Now, when I want to preemptively say this, every artist who's going to hear this is going to go, "Oh, don't put me in a box. I don't want to be there."
Right.
And I'm not, because first of all, every artist uses all three.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, everyone uses all three of these at some point in their lives. But I do believe that we have a proclivity towards one or the other. We have a strength in one or the other. And because of that, I think it's God's design to help us to work together.
Welcome to this episode of the Jesus in a Tragic World podcast with Greg Falls. This is Greg Falls here, and I hope that our time with each other in the coming moments will help you find fuller life in a relationship with God, yourself, and others. Welcome to the podcast. I'm joined by JP Kwok as we continue to explore how you can be more creative in your life. Think you're not creative? Think again. Whether you're solving problems, designing something beautiful, or dreaming up bold new ideas, creativity isn't just for artists, it's for everyone. In today's episode, we'll explore how we create, breaking creativity down into three powerful types: functional, aesthetic, and inspirational. You'll see how your everyday tasks, yes, yours, may be more creative than you realized. This isn't about painting or a masterpiece. It's about discovering the creativity wired into you. Let's get started. JP?
Yes, sir.
Here we are.
Here we are.
In the second episode of this mini-series on creativity. Last week, we talked about the fact that we have been created by God to be creative.
Yes.
That creativity has a deep reason behind it. That really you can't function in life, meet needs, help others, survive yourself, live fully without engaging in the creative process. And creativity doesn't mean artistry, but it certainly includes artistry.
Indeed.
We're artistic as well. But we're not just talking about poets and painters. We're talking about everyday people, as well as poets and painters. Everyday people engaging their creative skills. We pray to the glory of God.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and that's one thing we talked about last week that is absolutely true, is that all creativity is spiritual. Mm-hmm. And even those who reject God are still creating out of a spiritual impulse.
Exactly.
And they're motivated by the spiritual world to create.
And they're reaching for a longing. There's this longing that something's missing.
Yes.
The substance of it may be here, but the ordered existence of it isn't there. So we need to order the substance of life a little differently so that some creative thing that wasn't before is now and is meeting the need or expressing the beauty or creating connections with God's self and others. And so we got very philosophical last time. We'll get a little philosophical this time as well. And but also
it's kind of practical though.
Practical, as we talk about how we create.
Sure.
That's what. And so tell me, how do we create, and start with, I know that you break it down into some types of creativity. I introduced a little bit of that. Break that down for us.
Sure.
What are the types of creativity?
Sure. I use these, but they're not necessarily something that everyone's going to ascribe to. But I've seen this. 51 years old. I've been working in creative endeavors for a long time. Yeah. These are things that I see. Now, when I want to preemptively say this, every artist who's going to hear this is going to go, "Oh, don't put me in a box. I don't want to be there."
Right.
And I'm not, because first of all, every artist uses all three. Okay, everyone uses all three of these at some point in their lives. But I do believe that we have a proclivity towards one or the other. We have a strength in one or the other. And because of that, I think it's God's design to help us to work together.
Yeah.
Because we will complement one another and our giftings. And they're all creative. And they're all so the first one I talk about is functional creativity. Yeah. And a lot of people call this adaptive engineering. And it's very applicable, and it can manifest itself in many, many, many different ways. Easiest way to say it is I can make something work better.
Yeah.
I see that, and that's great. It's a good concept. I can make it better. And they do. They re-engineer better mousetrap.
Right.
Take an idea and go, oh, yeah, okay, all right. I can picture that, but I can picture it being this way and this way, but this is going to meet the need the best. They're very good at knowing what meets practical needs, but it's not necessarily always practical, okay? I'm not categorizing anything. I'm just saying that's very functional, not in a limiting way, but in a blessing way. Okay. The second type is aesthetic creativity. By the way, on the functional level, there are some pitfalls with that. If you're only pigeonholed into functional creativity, it can be uninspiring. It can just be reiterating of the same thing, but nothing that's compelling, nothing that's new, nothing that sparks someone else's imagination. All it is reinforcing better what provides a need, making a better camera, making a better CD player when someone else is working on an iPhone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it there's plenty of examples in the corporate world of Kodak and several other people who have functionally created themselves into oblivion. Blockbuster, things like that. So the second one is what I call aesthetic creativity. Now, of course, that does not mean that functional creativity is non-aesthetic. That's not what I mean. Yeah.
We're just trying to create distinctions.
Yes. So aesthetic creativity, a lot of people call this adaptive creativity or adaptive illustrative kind of creativity. The adaptive or the aesthetic creative likes to make ideas communicate. They're particularly attuned to the emotional impact of it. Like, how is this functional idea going to convey the intended message? Whereas a functional creative may go, wow, we need a lot of cup holders in this vehicle. Where can we place them that costs us the least amount of money to produce and also provides an answer to the mandate of cup holders, And they'll probably think through practical things like, oh, I don't want to hit my arm here. I want to place it in a very convenient place. Right. The aesthetic creative is going to go, wow, okay, I have a mandate to have 10 cup holders in a van. How can we do it beautifully? How can we do it in a way that every time they reach for this cup, it's not distracting. It's complementary to their emotion. It makes their experience in driving this vehicle a quality experience and a comfortable experience. And again, I'm not saying functionals don't think of that. I'm just thinking the aesthetic thinks that first. Right. That's where they go first. Yeah. That's their first inclination. They make ideas communicate better. But the pitfall with that is sometimes they will go for style and not think as much about the substance. Right. First, I'm not saying they don't ever. I'm just saying their first inclination is to think style, and whereas the functional is thinking about the functional, and then the third is what I call inspirational, but it's also inception, and so it's this. And so last episode we talked about the fact that we don't create ex nihilo. We're only working with what God's given us. Right. But also, and I meant to mention this last episode, so I'll insert this here. Good. In the book of Genesis, it's already telling us about where there's gold. It'll lay out the landscape, the geography of that area, and it lays out the rivers, and it'll say, there's gold over here, and over here there's precious stones, and over here there's this. And so there's already this foreshadowing and this forward energy of, what are they going to do with that? It's not like you're thinking, oh, that's where gold lives. That's great. No, we'll go dig it up. Right.
There's something we can do with it.
Yeah, it's something we can do with it. And so the inspirational is the person who's going, where's the gold? I know what to do with gold. I know what to do with precious gems. I got an idea. I got something that I don't know. It's probably existed somewhere, but not like this. I got something I want to say, or I have something that I do want to say. I have a prophetic voice. I have this idea that I think will help you respond to a truth in a new way. I'm feeling this impulse that I can't define where it's coming from. It's in front of me. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like a cloud. I can't reach it yet, but it's right there. And I can see a percentage of it, but I don't think anyone else sees it. I think I for some reason, I have this impulse to somehow make this thing happen. Mm-hmm. And we'll talk about that later, I think, in the third episode. But that's inspiration. It conceives something new within the boundaries that God has given us. Yeah. And it's within that one that I think it's hard for it to exist alone. A lot of people who have that proclivity don't bring things into existence if they lean more towards that because they don't have the abilities or the energy to do the other things, and that's where you see really good art, come forth, is when you got new ideas and the tenacity to bring it into the world. Now, its pitfalls, we've already said, it can be highly impractical, impractical. It can be unrealized. No one's ever going to know this, so those, you can create different iterations, different, syntax for that. In my experience, everyone has parts of that, but they lean towards a strength. Mm-hmm. And of course, there's a power in blending them together. Yeah. And I just think that's intentional. And I don't know if it's because after the fall that we're all given a different allotment of giftings. I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't know if Adam and Eve were equally gifted in creativity. I would think not, because we start seeing different trends throughout the book of Genesis, even after the fall. But I do know there's great power in putting giftings together and helping them appreciate one another. Yeah. And I don't really think I'm especially gifted. I really don't. And I'm not trying to be humble. I'm just stating something that I think. But I think I have the ability to see giftings in people. Right. And then bring them into collaborative processes. Maybe. I try. Yeah. Now, I'll tell you what, though. The old adage is true. You want to surround yourself with people who are smarter and better than you. Absolutely. At least in certain proclivities. Sure. And well, that's been a part of my journey personally. We've tackled some really difficult projects here at Bellevue. I'm not saying that what we've done is groundbreaking or ground shaking. I'm just saying it was an assignment that God gave us each time, and we were obedient to it, and it was hard. And I think I've learned a lot about these types of creativity going through that process and recognizing where I'm not creative. You know what I mean? Going through it and going, oh, wow, I see, well, let me just give you an example. We created a 50-minute film back in 2020. 5 years ago. Yeah. And that was something that we had never done anything on that scope before. Right. And we had the skills and abilities to do it in silos. So we have Wes Bueller, who is an incredibly fantastic eye for capturing a scene and for framing. Right. He's helped design and construct this room. And this room. And not just that, but everything we're using to the lighting film with. And how it's set. Yeah. Lighting, framing. He can tell a story through pictures, but he's more than that too. He's very verbally gifted too. And then you have Alicia Berry. He's another fantastic, and people will meet her, I think, in different episodes. Yeah. And she's extremely gifted in many different types of creativity, but she does have a particular bent that is unique to her amongst the three of us. She's very logistically gifted. She has a lot of tenacity. I appreciate that because I have tenacity too. She's very creative in problem solving. She's an engineer. Yeah, she's an engineer, but more. Yeah. She's a creative engineer. She has an eye for making something better. She has an eye for taking an idea and understanding it, and then going, oh, well, we could do this, and that might achieve what we want to do fast and good, and then I'll help you move on to the next idea. Yeah. And that project kind of helped me to first think through these different types. And I'm not trying to sell this as I've already said that as everything has to be this way. But I was noticing giftings in ways that I'm not gifted in that area. And I'm going to be bold in saying this, and I'm not going to hurt their feelings, but they had proclivities where they were gifted in different areas that each other weren't either, Yep. And, but that particular project really manifested that to the top because we were doing something new.
Yep.
Outside of our comfort zone.
Right. Demanding new skills that you had to pick up along the way too.
Right. And in ways we've never done it, in timelines we've never had to achieve before.
We were doing that in COVID. There was all kinds of our actors and all this stuff had to be socially distanced. There were so many things that had to be accomplished during that time.
And I was watching everyone view the world through their lens in a sense of urgency that was unfair, that I felt like I created and was responsible for.
Yeah.
And I was feeling incredibly unprepared and inadequate to lead us through this project. And I'm watching everything happen in real time, and I'm going, oh man, I could have done a better job there. And wow, we all succeeded. We all did it. We did this. And but what it did, it really helped me appreciate their giftings and how they flex and how they adapt.
Right.
But to admit to myself, I don't have that, which is easy for me to do.
Sure.
I'm not saying that's hard for me to do, but it was just a reality. I don't have that. I don't have that.
If we're going to really be creative beyond our own limited capacities, we have to have humility.
Yes.
And ego has to be as deflated as possible so that we can trust that the Lord is calling us in the creative process to connect with Him, to connect with ourselves, to have a real clear understanding of those limits and our humanity, and not only those limits, but our contributing abilities, and to be connected to others. Because ultimately, as this podcast is founded on the principles, the biblical principles, that life is about connection to God, self, and others. And so the creative process also is submitted to that spiritual call of God that we were created for, that life is about connecting to God, self, and others.
Other people. And that's kind of where I'm wanting to go with that whole story, is that we had opportunities in the moment to connect with one another uniquely in how we were gifted. And afterwards, we had opportunities to kind of debrief, and we took some staff personality tests too that kind of brought out some of these things. I was able to see them on paper, and in the end, really appreciate, I think, the value that everyone brings to the table. And when you do that, you're really no longer in a comparison game. You're in a value game. You're like, oh, I can appreciate how God created you. And I can appreciate how God created me. And here's the railroad track of the gospel, which is the leader's responsibility. That's really what you're saddled with. When you're leading people who are more gifted than you, your main responsibility is to lay down railroad tracks that are clear. And that's what I learned. I learned that my proclivities are in ideation. I need to be extremely
and by ideation, you're talking about ideas, concepts.
The inspirational side. I'm not functional very well. I aid functionality. I can jump in and help people who are functional, and I'm built to do that. I'm like, let me help you with what you're doing. I want to be there. I think I have some proclivities towards the aesthetic side too, but not near close to what Wes has. And so knowing who I am and accepting that helps me better understand my responsibility. And actually it informs that and gives me a certain level of peace. And also, we talked about this in the last episode, it helps me eliminate the things that don't need to be within my scope. So it gives me a limiting,
which helps you grow in relationship.
Helps me grow in relationship
with others.
It also helps me know how to build them up.
Yeah, and one of the things, I think this is something that we also need to bring out, because I think this is going to be, what I'm about to say, and maybe we'll talk about it a little bit, is important to not only the creative process, but to the people that are listening here, that are going to be applying creativity in their home with their family as they're designing a vacation or trying to figure out some kind of problem, or a couple that's trying to budget to see when they can afford a house, to a business owner that is saying, these are the realities of the market, these are the limits of our resources, how are we going to creatively do something, hey, we want to build something really great, and I have a team. They're engaging in the team, they're engaging in family. They have to be in relationship to get these collaborating competencies to work together. But here's my point. When we do that, we crash in together with ego. Yeah. We crash in together with competing priorities, differing ideas, and maybe one idea or another is going to win and the other one's going to have to concede. It ain't going to work. And that can be a relational landmine, but it's also the opportunity. If you recognize that the creative process is about connection to God, self, and others, that our bigger thing is not just the project that we're on, but the bigger thing is the spiritual, relational thing of our connections are what matter here, then you can frame the creative process better, because this work that I'm talking about, where we're working to, we have to work together, which means our flaws and our character deficiencies and all these things are going to step on one another and everything else. That's the opportunity to work, like to work on relationship, to learn something about yourself and to adjust or to repent, and so the creative process can be messy and even emotionally challenging. And yet, I guess what I want to say is that it's really important to realize that those relationships in the end are actually more important.
It's the spiritual journey and the connection.
They're the more enduring thing than the project at hand.
And viewing that project in the scope of the spiritual journey, So one of the things that we're doing now over the last several years is I've learned that even though everyone on this list can be an inspirational creative person, like Wes has inspirational creativity, Alicia has inspirational creativity. Wes has actually a lot of functional creativity too. I don't as much have functional creativity, but I'll jump in there and help. But I know this to be mostly true, is that in any creative team, you do have to have some direction. And that direction, you have to have scope. And that scope, when it comes to spiritual work that's intentional, it has to be defined spiritually. We talked about the prospectus, last time in the last episode. So you need to have someone creating a spiritual prospectus and doing the lion's share of setting up the guide rails and the guidelines of what you're trying to accomplish. Once you do that, then there is great freedom in the mess of discovery. So I may start off with the lion's share of a script or something, or an idea to begin with, or Wes may start with a lion's share of one. What you need to know is that there are guide rails for that we're not breaking. But other than that, we hold on to those things loosely. And it's a great process of discovery and hearing everyone's voice. Now, and knowing that not every voice is going to take precedent in this project, but you're going, we could use that later.
We can do
that later.
Leadership's important. Right?
Leadership is important.
Yeah.
I think so.
Whether you're either a team leader at your business, or you're a teacher in the classroom, or you're the mom or the dad, or you're the ministry leader at your church, creativity is not going to function as well if it doesn't find some measure of order. And so leadership is really important to that process.
And leadership is
it's not easy.
It's not, but it has multiple functions. One function is to provide order or to provide system. And now that might break. And a leader may go, oops, but
probably not might. It will happen.
Well, true.
It's
absolutely.
Messy along the way.
But without having that framework to start with, and people don't have anything to push against because they don't know where tell me where you're going and I'll tell you how best to get there, is really the call to the artist. What are you wanting to do? What are you wanting to accomplish? Then ask me how I can contribute. Ask me how my ideas can help you. And then the leader has to siphon through those and go, oh, well, that's actually better than what I was thinking. Let's do that. Or, you know what, that's a great idea. Doesn't exactly fit the tracks we're on right now, but I can see how you would see that. And that really might work in a different application that we probably should be doing. So let's work on that later. And that is the leadership opportunity, is to receive from your creatives and to really listen and kind of set your preferences aside, knowing that you're not jettisoning them, but you're listening. You're like, oh, wow, didn't think of that. That's a really good point of view. And then maybe even taking time, because we'll talk about incubation in our next episode. I think incubation is a huge part of creativity. It's a really big part of the creative process, and it can flex. It can be big. It can be small. But that's where leadership and incubation really plays a good part in teamwork, personal creativity process, and teamwork creativity process.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, I think we've helped our listeners understand some of the different kinds of creativity. Hopefully they've been able to identify some of those things in themselves, and maybe gain some confidence. And we've also been able to talk about some of the dynamics of creativity beyond just one person being creative, but the fact that we're
connecting with one another.
We're connecting with one another. We've been able to establish the fact that, yes, that ultimately life is about connection to God, self, and others. And the creative process is about that as well. Yeah. And that, you know, as a believer in Jesus, we want to have any process facilitate those connections, and even the process itself to generate those connections. And it's work, and sometimes it can be messy and it can be challenging. You know, Proverbs 14:4 says, where there are no oxen, the manger is empty. It's clean, right? You know, but from the strength of an ox comes abundant harvest. Yeah. In other words,
and the mess.
There's gonna be, you know, some manure in that manger area.
And you're probably going to create some.
and you're going to create some of it, but some of that mess is necessary for us to grow in our connection with God, self, and others as we're creating things that advance the gospel, to bring thriving in life, and connect us hopefully to God, self, and others.
And working with one another, working with oxen together who are yoked equally, is already now mandated that you have to take care of that manger. That's part of the job.
Yep.
You don't get to skip it.
Yep.
You know.
Yep. And you've got to attend to.
You have to attend to it.
Those relational aspects and those resource aspects that are important to the creative process. Well, next time we are going to be wrapping up the series. We want everybody to come and tune in next time. We're going to talk what it looks like in practice.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm looking forward to, you know, diving deep into what that's going to look like, what that looks like for you. I want to tell the story of some of the creative things that you've done. I would like us to get specific, because then people can they can relate in one way or another, even if it's a different venue that they're creative in, and we can maybe hopefully help them to also see what it looks like for them to engage in a creative process that moves them forward in problem solving, in bringing beauty into the world, to advancing the good news of Jesus, all of those things. So, JP, thanks.
Thank you, Pastor.
Look forward to next time. So, and listeners, we are so glad that you have participated in this podcast. We value your time. We know that you give us a gift when you take the time to listen to these podcasts or view these podcasts. And we just want to encourage you to subscribe so that you can keep on having these podcasts alerted to you. And then we also hope that you would leave a review, share it with others, and be a part of what God is doing as we are having these conversations. God bless. And until next time, may you experience the glory of God as you engage in the creative processes of your life. Yeah, that was number 2. All right.
Want to stop? Go 10.
Let me... Bye.